angle. Let's look at smart cities and what they could look like in the future. And what role will artificial intelligence play in how we all live and work in the future? Let's connect to Singapore, where our next guest speaker, Dr. Ayesha Khanna, will be speaking. Ayesha is co-founder and CEO of ADDO AI, company and incubator, and an expert on smart cities. We are thrilled that she's joining us today to talk about smart cities, winning with artificial intelligence. Are you ready to be enlightened?
Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here today to speak about the importance of artificial intelligence in smart cities. Almost all of us will reside in cities in the future. Hundreds of millions of people are migrating across the world to cities, and data will be the defining force in how these people live and work. Let's dig a little bit deeper. More than half the world's population is now middle class, and 5 people each second join the ranks of the middle class, with most of this growth happening in Asia. That's actually quite significant if you think about it. That means as people move to cities, they do so for upward social mobility. They do so to join the middle class. And what do they look for in cities? They look for better infrastructure, better housing, better offices, better factories, better hospitals, schools, services, systems, buildings. All of these should be accessible and they should be intelligent, because it's not possible to build a city for so many people unless you build it in a way that's intelligent. Of course, all of this has been in discussion before COVID-19. And then COVID-19 happened. And people realized that we have to rethink cities altogether. We have to now imagine that if there was any kind of crisis, what we need is accessible services just 15 minutes from where we live. So a philosopher in Paris calls this the 15-minute city, where everything from malls to doctors to schools to events is only 15 minutes away from where you live. And in fact, the mayor of Paris is using that concept to rethink how Paris should be in the future. And China is also thinking about it, because you have existing cities like Paris, and then you have entirely new cities to accommodate these hundreds of millions of urban migrants. In China, a high-tech COVID-proof smart city, which was actually architected by Spanish architects, is being designed for future lockdowns. It's a hyper-local city, which means it's full of co-working spaces. These are offices where every office company has a place to go to. And there are spaces that are all available to people for things like, for example, if something breaks down in your home, then instead of having to walk to a store, a hardware store, you can go to a space and print it out, 3D print it. Or if you want to go to the library, the same building may be a library in the morning or a children's school in the morning, but in the evening, it could be for the parents a philharmonic. It could be an event space. Every space needs to be like this, resilient and have wellness at its center, have quality and efficiency at its center. Now, many high-rises and buildings will become multifunctional, just as these new COVID resilient cities are planned. But here, using deep tech technologies like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and robotics, they will transform into smart buildings. Let's go to Tokyo, one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world. I love that city. In Tokyo, buildings are being retrofitted like these 3 office towers and completely redesigned with an emphasis on sustainability and multi-usability. Imagine that you walk into any kind of commercial space, from an airport to an office building to a mall to a cinema, and it's all completely contactless. Using artificial intelligence and computer vision, all of your security identity verification is taken care of by the systems that are really manned by artificial intelligence. And your voice is a key way for you to interact. Before, you interacted with people. Now, you interact with the building. And people think that smart buildings is really about the building knowing you, the building having a personality. It is no longer a building is a space, or any space is some cement slabs that are put there. It is alive. It has sensors like cameras, heat sensors, voice sensors, and all of this data that it's getting is then analyzed by machine learning to give you safety recommendations, to give you ideas about what is available in that space at that moment. This is the new smart building. But it goes beyond that. What you'll see is that the very buildings structurally will change a little bit as well. Every building will be outfitted with terraces for drone deliveries. This is a mock-up of such a building. Now, for the terrace to be able to track a drone, which is coming towards that address and particular terrace using artificial intelligence, it needs to be able to navigate it. Just like you have air traffic control, here it's all autonomous. The drone automatically comes, knows which address to go to, lands safely, provides the office materials or construction materials, anything else that's needed. And that becomes the primary form of receiving goods via drones. This means that should there be a lockdown, you can receive everything you need via drones. Now, what about inside the building? We've talked about movement inside the building and how it's contactless. We have talked about how it becomes a vehicle to receive and send things automatically, no humans required. But once you're inside a building, like an office space, then how do you collaborate with your colleagues all over the world? Right now, we have Zoom. And Zoom is kind of awful and kind of wonderful at the same time. We need it. It's been a godsend. But people are getting Zoom fatigue. Then you have this notion of virtual reality. But virtual reality, when we put it on, it feels like we're in a game with cartoon-like characters. But that's about to change. Facebook at work is using Oculus virtual reality sets like these 2 people. And when you put it on, you literally see the other person. You don't see a cartoon of that, but their avatar looks like them, speaks like them. And when they talk to you, you hear it from where their sound is coming, so that it really, all your senses feel that you're in that space. This social presence is going to transform the way we do business around the world. And eventually you'll be wearing those haptic gloves, so when you shake somebody's hand, you can feel even how firm that person's grip is. Lighting is very interesting when you come to the notion of smart spaces because lighting is foundational. It's foundational and it's pervasive. And it can be used to gather data and to automatically change the environment. But it's not the only thing. In any building, there are tens of systems at any given time. And these IoT sensors, including the LED lights with Bluetooth, for example, but also noise sensors, air quality sensors, position or vibration, air pressure, chemical sensors. The building is alive. It has a nervous system that's constantly taking in data. And now it must do something with all this data. So what we imagine is that all the data from all these different systems is stored in an intelligent data platform. An intelligent data platform is a data architecture where all of your data, whether it's structured or unstructured, like videos or voice notes, it's all stored in a secure place where your privacy is and security is preserved, and then it's used to actually change the different levers that make a building sustainable, such as your blinds, such as your heat, such as your temperature, but also humidity levels. And this is just the beginning. I'll speak later about what else can be done, but an intelligent building gives you a dashboard. But here's the thing. Right now, all of these systems are different. And some companies give you one system, but the truth is, there'll never really be one system. You know, when smart cities first started, I started studying it when I was in New York before it became such a hip term. And it turns out that this vision of an operating system of a smart city where one or two mega companies can do everything, it doesn't exist. It's a myth. Actually, a smart city, a smart building, a smart space is built by lots of people, lots of partners, an ecosystem of different players that each have an expertise. And the key is that they should be able to share what they're using, what they're finding with each other, so that they can all make use of that data. The building management system can make use of that data, and then truly a chain of smart city services is built around it. This is as true of a commercial space as it is of a smart city. You have gas and water detection. You have smart health, smart education, smart lighting, smart parking. All of this is usually done by different agencies and different players. That's why data is so important. Data and how you share it. And the beauty is that as you organize your data, first you put your physical sensors and components in place. Then you put your digital assets in place so that you can put it on the cloud, you can organize it, you can store your data. Well, now you can do many things with it. For example, you can forecast how many people will be in a building. And that might help that building depending on its business. We work with this hospital network in the US where we predicted the emergency queue lines on different days of the year. And given our algorithm, which used all kinds of data from their electronic health records to their cameras to the notes that was taken by the doctor, we were able to recommend the kinds of doctors, nurses, and the number of assistants they should have on different days of the year. And that was 20% more accurate for that particular hospital than anything they'd done before. So you can literally improve a business. You can improve the quality of service the business provides. You can improve the bottom revenue and profitability of a business. And you can do all this while lowering your climate footprint as well. And finally, and most importantly, this building 360 that you get can become a key component in your strategy for customer-centric businesses. You can't help your businesses unless you have data about your space, how people move in it, how people use it, and how they feel when they're in it. So how should you start your AI journey? I have one word: data. Own your data. You may not know it. You may be using different vendors. That's all okay. But that data in your space or in your office is yours to own and to use to improve your service as well. And this is really the crux of the 21st century business. Know your customer better. And for this, you don't need to be a data scientist. You don't need to be an AI engineer. You need to be a business expert, a user interface expert, a strategic expert. And that is very important. All AI teams are ultimately a collaboration between business experts and AI scientists. Why do I say data is important? Because data is the most valuable resource in the world now. And if you organize the data and then you use it with artificial intelligence, you not only take care of the space and lower its energy footprint, increase its security, you take care of the people inside it. And they have all kinds of needs. They have business goals, they have personal goals, they have needs, and increasingly younger millennials and others want wellness to be part of that. So how can you start? Well, first of all, you should take an inventory of your data. And it doesn't matter if you have a very big business. Pick a small subset of it, and you should say, for all this data, I will organize it properly, or I'll find out where it's stored. Then pick one business problem. You could say, I want to, for example, optimize the staffing in a hospital, for example. And in 3 months, the work we did took less than 3 months, by the way. In 3 months, you should be able to have a prototype that is able to show some measurable returns. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. Fail fast. Be the Silicon Valley of your company. Keep your little hub. Try it. At a minimum, you'll know your customers better, and you'll reuse that data. If you do it properly, you'll reuse it for your next business model. Now, as I said, you may not have the skills, and that's fine, but you will need to collaborate with AI experts. It's very important that you work together with them to define your strategy. But there's a third player. There's you, technical experts in you, and then there's a third player, the AI itself. AI, according to Harvard Business Review, will redefine management. Human beings need to focus on judgment work. They need to know the strategy of the company. And they need to leave routine work, this analysis of billions of data points of real streaming data, which is coming out from these intelligent sensors. You need to let the machine do that work. And the only way you can work with machines effectively is by treating them as colleagues. Why do I say that? Because when you have a colleague, you're open to their recommendations. And AI will tell you certain things. It will tell you things you didn't expect and tell you to try out placing 4 more nurses in cardiology. And you may say, well, that's unusual, but you should try it. On the other hand, it may say something that strikes you as completely not true. If it pulls at your heartstrings and you think intuitively, given your experience, this doesn't sound right, then you should question it, just like you would a colleague. Because AI may have had biased data or bad algorithms. And so you must be very confident in both in working with AI experts, in enjoying the use of data as a strategic asset for your business, for your career, and you must also be confident in criticizing it. Never be afraid to criticize the machine. And when you do all this, and you do it in a way that's responsible and accountable, in a way that follows the laws of the country, then you will find that artificial intelligence and data can help you serve your customers better, lower your costs, improve your profitability. But you should never do anything without having an ethics guideline for any technology. And so I encourage every city, every company to have an advisory council on AI ethics, and for very large algorithms and decisions to always have a human in the loop, at least the first few times, to check that things are as they should be. If that happens, the human-machine partnership can go a long way in a better future for all of us. Thank you.
That was incredibly insightful, Ayesha. Thank you so much. Now we have a couple questions for you as well. As COVID has changed the way we do many things, do you think this will also accelerate the adoption of AI in smart buildings and cities?
Absolutely. Basically, what we are seeing is that every single industry has seen an acceleration of digitalization. And the reason this is happening is because people need to be resilient, adaptive, and both competition and unknown economic shocks can really derail a company if they do not have a digital and data strategy. And the best way to be nimble, frankly, is to have an artificial intelligence machine learning platform that is as true for healthcare as it is for education, as it is for smart city buildings.
Thank you, Aisha. Great to hear. AI will change many jobs, as you said, and people may worry that their jobs will be at risk. So, how do you think jobs will evolve in the future? And do you think there will be an onset of new types of jobs or roles available? It seems like we have some connection issues. Apologies for that. Aisha, so AI will change many jobs. So how do you think jobs of the future will evolve? And do you think there will be an onset of new types of roles available?
Yes. New way for us to do business. What we are finding is that while jobs, you may feel, are changing, they're not being replaced as much as particular tasks are being replaced. And so it's very important that people upskill themselves, that they are in a position where they can work with two new team members. All of us, even if we're lawyers, entertainers, designers, interior designers, manufacturers, hotel owners, we need to learn how to work with AI engineers, and we need to know how to work with the machine itself. This means all of us, all our companies need to learn a little bit of computational thinking and artificial intelligence. Just a little basic thing. When this happens, you will have lifelong marketability in your careers because you'll be able to marry innovative ideas that serve your customers with artificial intelligence to create proactive, personalized experiences anchored in customer centricity, wellness, and sustainability. So I think don't be afraid. Just go for it and take the bull by the horns and use AI to upskill yourself and become a much more valuable person in your company.
Great advice, Ayesha. Thank you so much. It's been great having you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. And now, before we jump into our final keynote, let's take a minute to hear from Helvar's data scientist, Omar Nasir, on how Helvar uses data in practice.
We generate data from Helvar's lighting control systems, and I believe that it's quite exciting to experiment and innovate with the data. I personally feel that there is so much more that you can do with lighting than just turning it on and off. A typical work week at Helvar is about three things. Number one, can we improve our existing products or create a new service from scratch that leverages data and artificial intelligence? Number two, do we have enough data to draw any conclusive insights? And number three, has our data-driven service or a data-driven product made a quantifiable impact on user experience? If it has, well, then that's cause for celebration. And if it hasn't, it's back to the drawing board. What do I love about my role? Data. I believe that data is an extremely valuable commodity now. What drives me is to better understand what insights can we extract from the data and whether the data is useful or not. And I believe that working extensively with data has made me realize the importance of privacy and ethics when it comes to the data itself, whether you're harvesting the data or you're using it to build more products and services.
That was great to hear from Omar on what working with data is all about.